Now, into the ticket office of Disneyland.
Oh boy, let's do this. Don't think the CIA is going to be trying to hack your second-gen iPod.
I didn't think so. There might have been a lot of illegal music on there. I wouldn't doubt it. But, I mean...
You were supposed to bring death to the flagships, not join them.
Google has found a new way to piss me off.
iTunes is a constant source of embarrassment.
Every time I say it, it's going to suck even more.
May I present to you the cat?
I am Medela.
I can't do it anymore without laughing. I was going to do the whole thing.
Welcome, everyone, to the Calling All Platforms podcast. I am your host, Wes, and I'm here with Landon.
Hello.
And Caleb.
Yay!
And we're here to talk all things tech this week. And boy, we have quite a bit to talk about.
Yeah.
I didn't think we would have, but man, we got some things. Well, let's get into it. The first thing on the docket here, we have some Apple news. Guess what? Just launch the thing, Apple, is what was on there.
Yep. So, listener, we skipped last week because of Super Bowl parties, let's be honest, but also because there was like kind of one piece of news, and it was a rumor from Apple that they were going to be launching the new iPhone SE this week. They didn't. So that was, I'm very sad. What did happen, however, was Tim Cook posted on Twitter a picture of the Apple logo, or a little video clip of the Apple logo. Looked like an AI generated loop of animated Apple logo video clip nonsense, with the text saying that we're get ready for launch day next week or something like that. So anyways, expectation now is this coming Wednesday. So 2 days or maybe tomorrow, as of when you're listening to this, listener, theoretically Apple will be launching the new iPhone SE. Just a refresher of what we're expecting from this thing currently. We're expecting it to be basically the same form factor as the iPhone 14, which means it will not have a dynamic island, but will in fact have a notch. We'll be using the older 90 hertz, or sorry, not 90 hertz. Boy, don't I wish. 60 hertz OLED display from that phone as well. But that it will have the updated camera module, like main shooter from the iPhone 16, but that's the only rear camera it's going to have. Just going to have one rear camera. It will have the A18 processor from the iPhone 16 and will have 8 gigs of RAM in order to support Apple Intelligence features, though, to be honest, you should just turn those off if you have an iPhone, listener. And that's pretty much it. Oh, USB-C also will have that. Probably will ditch the SIM card tray, be eSIM only, and it's kind of up in the air whether or not it's going to support their satellite calling stuff, but we'd kind of expect yes for that. So that's what we're expecting from the new iPhone SE. Might be called the SE4, might also just be called the iPhone 16e or something like that, because the way that Tim kind of talked about this new feature that's coming, he said, welcoming a new member to the family. Like, he literally said that. So some people are interpreting that as it's going to be a new thing in an existing product family, and they're reading that as the iPhone 16 product family, and so they're thinking it's going to be a 16 numbered device like the iPhone 16e or something like that. Or C. They should do C, because they did that with the 5 and that worked out so well for them.
Yeah, but the 5C was actually really cool.
It was really cool. And I'm going to be honest, if they released this thing with a plastic back, I'd actually be super interested in that. Yeah. But yeah, so that's what we're expecting. Price below $500 for a camera that is modern, for an SoC that is modern, and everything else is a few years old. And honestly, for me, that says you're going to be getting software updates for as long as the iPhone 16 is getting software updates, and it costs $300 less than the iPhone 16. Count me in. So we'll see this week, theoretically.
Nice. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Next piece of news, Apple TV is now on Android.
Yes, that is correct, listener. If you are one of those folks that have been holding out on punching in on Apple TV Plus because they didn't have an Android app, wow, that's weirdly specific, and I'm really confused about your use case.
Yeah, especially considering Apple TV Plus is like on all the TVs.
It is. Yep.
And it's a much better experience to watch it on the TV.
It is, yes. But if you really wanted to watch Ted Lasso on your phone, but you have an Android phone and not an iPhone, and you don't want to use their web interface, that's totally valid, you can now download the Apple TV Plus app via the Google Play Store. So, cool.
Yay-ish.
Well, we like all platforms, right? Calling all platforms.
Yeah.
Over here.
Yeah, I'm not going to complain about that. Now we just need Apple to put Apple Arcade on Android, and I can switch without losing anything.
There you go.
And also
Do
put
it,
the
Apple.
Apple Watch on Android, or at least a standalone device, and then I can switch back.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Next piece of news. The Powerbeats Pro 2.
Yeah, so Beats by Dre. This is a company that is renowned for it traditionally headphones that cost way more than they should based on their sound profile and or feature set. That has been slowly trending toward not being so bad over the past few years. To be clear, the sound profile you get from Beats products are still very much rooted in hip hop, right? Like it is a hip hop rap kind of sound profile, very bass forward and not at all flat or neutral. But Powerbeats are the workout headphones, right? These are Beats workout earbuds, fully wireless earbuds that have the little curly, ear loop things that hook them onto your ear so that they don't fall off while you're working out. And if you're working out, you probably are listening to music that is going to benefit from a bass heavy hip hop sound stage.
Yeah.
So that's not a reason to complain about them. And they're still expensive, right? These headphones are, were these $250 or $350? I can't remember. $250. So same price as a pair of AirPods Pro, but they have all of the same features as the AirPods Pro with, the fact that they stay in your ears better. They, I think, objectively look better, and they have better battery life now.
Yeah.
Simply just because they're larger, so they have more space to put a battery in there. But all the other stuff is pretty much the same as the AirPods Pro, but more battery life, and they stay in your head better. They look better. They're more fashionable, which is one of the few things that Beats has always done well, is being more fashionable than other options. So it kind of feels like, actually, no, these aren't overpriced, and they are, in fact, some of the best fully wireless earbuds that you can get for $250.
Yeah.
Wild. But there you go. Powerbeats Pro.
One of the most interesting features for me is they have a heartbeat or a heart rate sensor on them.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about the heart rate sensor.
And I did see they also you can pair them with workout equipment so that your treadmill or elliptical or a bike or something like that can take the heart rate from your earbuds and use that data instead of the built-in heart rate monitor that's on the equipment you're using.
Interesting.
And it is really interesting. I'm curious to see how accurate it is. I haven't seen too many tests on that yet.
Yeah, I haven't really seen anybody test it, but from what Beats has said about how that feature works, it sounds like it's okay for accuracy, but isn't super accurate.
Right.
And generally speaking, if you have it paired to your treadmill and you also have an Apple Watch paired to your treadmill, then the way the software experience is going to work is that the treadmill is going to prefer the reading from the Apple Watch because that'll be more accurate. But if you don't have an Apple Watch paired to your treadmill, then, Powerbeats Pro 2 is better than nothing.
Yeah.
And I mean, saves you from having to grab onto the heart reading metal pads that they have on some pieces of exercise equipment or something like that, which is I always see those and I'm like, that's great if this is a stationary bike, but if it's literally any other piece of equipment, that's obnoxious.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, heart rate sensor, again, these are the workout earbuds.
Mm-hmm.
So Yeah, and now the case is like 30% smaller than the last generation of Powerbeats Pro
Yeah.
too. So they're also just pocketable. Like you can now put them in bags or pockets without them being obnoxious. Like the old one was like softball size.
That old case was
huge.
massive. It was so big. And this new case also has more battery as well.
It does. Yeah, more
Which is
battery
great.
and smaller. So yeah, it's pretty good. And honestly, with the longer battery life of the earbuds themselves, plus the larger battery in the case, you will probably be able to go, like, if you're doing like an hour workout like 3 to 4 times a week or something like that, you'll be able to go a couple weeks without charging these earbuds.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah. The other best feature, I think, in my opinion, is the orange color that they come in.
Oh yeah.
They come in a variety of colors, which is the nice thing about Beats. But the orange one is just great. If I were to buy them, that would be the one I would get for sure.
I will say they don't have a translucent one of these, do they?
I don't think so.
I don't think they do. And they released some translucent earbuds, Beats did, and I love that concept, and I wish that all of their stuff was translucent plastic. These are not, but Beats, come on, keep it up.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to move on to some Google news. Looks like Goole I/O, the date is revealed.
Yes. Google put out, as they typically do, a little game that you could play. Now, as in my research on this, I haven't, which is not much, to be honest, listener. I haven't seen that anybody's solved this little puzzle game thing that they put out. But what it was, I'm trying to find what they called it. Prism shift, that's what they called it. And basically what you have to do is you have to align some mirrors that point a laser at different things, and then it goes, and there's different levels and whatnot. And so that's how you kind of unveil what the date was. But they did eventually come out with and just announce the date. And it is going to be May 20th and 21st of this year, which is a couple of weeks later than what they typically do. They've, in the past, done it in the beginning of May. But I don't think that's that big of a deal unless you're a big Microsoft fan like Wes and you want to pay attention to build, because that's also the same days. But let's be honest. I mean, Wes might be one of 3 that actually want to watch that.
Yeah.
Just
might be
kidding.
a different
just
thing.
kidding. There's
Might
probably
be
10 of you.
There's a few of us. No, it is funny that they released it from May 20th to 21st, where build is May 19th to the 22nd. So it's
Well,
I'm
at least
wondering-
Microsoft can get their keynote done first, and then Google can do theirs.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. I'm sure it's just talk of AI.
Oh, yeah, both of them. That's all they're going to talk about.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, I don't know if this build, I'm just going to get highlights.
Have Copilot give you the highlights of the Copilot keynote.
That'd be funny. I should ask it right now to see if it'll leak it. That'd be hilarious.
That would be so funny.
Just to see. That would be hilarious.
Then we can ask Gemini to give the highlights of the Google I/O 2025 keynote.
That would be funny.
Well, actually, I think Google would give us the highlights of last year's. Wasn't that what it did with the news when we did that one time?
Probably.
Or was it Bing that gave me the last year's news? I can't remember.
I mean, none of them
It
were
was
that.
one of them did.
Were super up to date. So
No, neither of them were particularly accurate, but one of them was straight up like year-old news.
Well, we'll go ahead and we'll move on. Let's talk Android 16 Beta 2 is now available.
yeah, listener. Now, if you're the type of person that likes to download the beta on your phone, this one might be the one that I would say go for it. I haven't seen anything saying that it's super buggy, so maybe it's okay. I don't know. So if you're adventurous, go for it. The only there's only a couple things that are really new here that I wanted to talk about. There's a few camera updates, mostly software sided, like software wise, like user facing things. Like they added some manual controls to the camera, and that's kind of nice if you're into doing that sort of thing. You don't have to download a third-party app to have manual controls now if you don't want to. Now, I don't know to the extent of these manual controls, but they do have them now. But the most interesting one to me is if you have multiple profiles on your Android device, which some people do, like some people will set up like a work profile and then a normal profile. They now have a widget that you can just click on once and it'll switch directly to that other profile. And it can also be resizable, so you can have it be a 1x1 widget all the way up to a complete full screen 5x4, which that seems questionable to me. Maybe if you have like 3 or 4 different profiles, which that's a lot. Listener, please don't be one of those. But there is that option. So if you do use multiple profiles, you can now quickly just tap once on the widget and switch really easily. Although, again, depending on how large you make this widget, you could very easily accidentally do that as well. So just keep that in mind. But it is kind of a cool feature.
All right, we're going to move on. We're going to talk about Paramount versus YouTube TV.
Yes, listener, this was a short-lived little spat between Paramount and YouTube TV. I believe it was last Monday that they sent out. If you are a YouTube TV customer, as I am, you got an email saying, due to an argument, basically, Paramount channels, including CBS, CBS Sports, and MTV, and all the channels that they own, will no longer be on YouTube TV until we can agree on a price, whatnot, blah, 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 blah. This has happened multiple times over multiple years with multiple different companies, because I don't know why. Either the companies are being weird and or Google is being probably a little bit of both. But that also did get resolved on Friday, maybe on Saturday. I can't remember. I got another email saying, hey, guess what? Paramount channels are back. But to me, none of the channels actually left. Like they were there all week. So I don't know if anybody actually lost these channels for the few days that they were arguing, but that is now done. So you don't have to worry. If you for some reason didn't see these emails, don't worry. All your Paramount channels are still there and you're going to be fine.
Gotcha.
Great.
Speaking of that little tangent, I remember, so I was looking at my little package I have with Xfinity, and it says that it comes with Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I do subscribe to Paramount Plus. Other than that, and I was like, well, I'll discontinue it, and I can log in with Xfinity. Makes sense if I'm coming with it. Guess what? Paramount Plus are TV channels. They're not. It's not a subscription. I found out. It is Paramount Plus are channels. Yes. I also figured this out later. It's because at first I couldn't sign in with my Xfinity account because it doesn't show I can sign in on the Paramount Plus for streaming. Those are 2 different things I had to find out. So there are actual Paramount Plus channels. Dear listener, just so you know, if Xfinity is telling you that you have Paramount Plus, it is not the subscription streaming thing. It is channels on their service. Sorry, you reminded me of that. I know, it's weird, isn't it?
I hate Comcast and Paramount with a fiery burning passion, and that little nugget does not help.
No.
I just help with that.
Because in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm already getting this through Xfinity. I might as well just use that instead of paying the $12 a month for Paramount. So I'm like, oh,
yeah,
easy money. Nope. Guess what? That's not what that means. I had to find that out later. Little tangent side note just reminded me of that.
Wow.
So, yeah. All right, let's move on. We have some general tech news here. AMD reveals actual reveal date for the 9070 GPUs.
Yeah, so remember how last month, listener, at CES, AMD quote-unquote revealed the 9070 and 9070 XT from Radeon? and then didn't tell us jack squat about either GPU other than the name. That's not really a reveal. That's an announcement that we're working on a product. AMD has now revealed the actual date of the reveal of the actual reveal of the 9070 GPUs. So,
Oh my
this past
gosh.
week, they on Twitter posted and announced, or the head of Radeon announced that February 28th, they would be releasing, basically, it's just going to be a video on YouTube where they are going to be going over and actually revealing the 9070 and 9070 XT, and they will be announcing launch dates for both cards and prices, right? This triggered kind of a slew of rumors about what we should expect from these, and the long and short of it is that if these rumors turn out to be true, then these things are going to perform at or better than the same level as the RTX 5070 and 5070 Ti that Nvidia is going to be releasing soon, and will be slightly cheaper. They're saying about $500 for the 9070 and about, was it $700, I think, for the 9070 XT, which does undercut the announced MSRPs for the 5070 at $550 and the 5070 Ti, which I think was $800, or was it $750? It was something like that. So
Yeah.
a little bit cheaper and rumored to be about the same, if not a little bit better performance. So this could be really good news. But obviously we don't know for sure, and we're going to have to wait until February 28th to find out. But at least we now know when we will find out. So that's better than nothing.
True. Please be decently priced.
Well, I don't know how far you've read in the notes for this episode, Wes, but
I did read. I was just being a little more optimistic for the listener. Anyway, Nvidia. The 5070 Ti launched this week, but costs everything.
Yes. No, this is 100%. This is the Thanos meme. You know, what did it cost? Everything. So the 5070 Ti launch date is this week. Rumored, well, actually, no, Nvidia has officially pushed back the launch date of the 5070. It was supposed to launch like the last week of February. It is now instead going to be launching early in March, I believe March 5th. So, yeah, okay, that doesn't necessarily bode super well. And the 5070 Ti that is launching this week does not have a Founders Edition card that is being sold for it from Nvidia, but I believe it was Micro Center has started posting listings for it. Newegg has also started posting listings, but they did not have prices on any of those, but Micro Center did. And this card, which is supposed to have a launch MSRP of, I believe, $750, is not going to be available for $750. Like, not at all. Every single, and to be clear, this is not like because you won't be able to buy it because it's going to be a paper launch and everything's going to be grabbed by scalpers and they'll be selling it on eBay for, like $1,500, $2,000, whatever. No. The actual prices, the MSRPs of all of the third-party cards, because there is no Founders Edition card that have been posted so far, start at about $900. And there's a good chunk of them that are listed at 1,000 or even a little bit over 1,000. I think there was one card from PNY that was listed at the $750 MSRP, but yeah, there's definitely going to be tons of those available for people to buy. So yeah, I guess this is what happens when you can't buy any other GPUs because Nvidia stopped making the 40 series cards, and the 50 series cards that have been on sale so far were available in minuscule quantities and have all been grabbed by scalpers. And currently, if you want to buy a 5090, I think your best option is eBay, and you might be able to snag one if you're willing to drop $10,000 on a GPU.
Oh,
Gosh.
We're talking used car prices. And I mean like 2025 used car prices. You're not going to get a great car for 10 grand in 2025, but a functional small sedan for $10,000, you can do that.
Jeez.
You could also buy a 5090. What is wrong with it? So yeah, that's where we're at with the pricing of Nvidia's cards so far. The 5070 Ti is not going to launch at $750. It is launching, in fact, at $900 and going up from there, and probably not launching in a bunch of quantity, which means that it's in fact going to cost you even more than that, which does kind of suggest that the 5070 that's coming out at the beginning of March, that's not a $550 GPU. Best case scenario, $700. So yeah. So if AMD launches the 9070 at $500, that's gonna kick butt. Assuming that it is in fact available for in any amount, like any quantity. But suffice it to say, this is not a great time to be buying GPUs. Sorry, folks. I think this is just the way it is now. When new graphics cards launch, stop buying GPUs. Don't buy them. Hold off. Wait until something else happens in the market. Wait for them to have been out a year. Something. Give it some time. Let the prices normalize. Let the market sort itself out. Because launch time is not when you should be buying graphics cards anymore.
No.
Just don't. Just don't do it. So there you go.
Getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
Well, hey, speaking of the 5090, turns out also melts power connectors.
Yeah. So, listener, you remember a couple of years ago when the RTX 4090 launched and had that ridiculous 12-pin VH2 plus power whatever connector on it that they put on there because they wanted to reinvent the standard so that everybody would have to buy new power supply cables and yada, yada, yada. And then it was like, well, okay, I guess they put it on the 3090 first, but then the 4090 released and it was melting the power connectors. Turns out 5090 does that too. There are a number of investigations that have been done by prominent tech YouTubers that have gone into detail on this. You can look for videos. I believe Jay's 2 Cents did one. Derbauer did one. I believe Hardware Unboxed was it that did one as well. I can't remember all of them, but I think Derbauer had probably the most detailed analysis of the thing. He was also taking apart the cards in order to look at how they, like, the PCBs were actually laid out to figure out what the crap is going on here. And the long and short of it is essentially that the load balancing for the power input on these ports is really crap with the 16-pin connector, the 12 VH2 power standard, whatever the crap that is called. It's just terrible and functions in such a way that if one of the pins is not correctly seated for whatever reason, manufacturing defect, improper insertion into the port or something like that, the power port is just going to try and draw all of the power through the cables that are properly connected and just ignore the one that isn't. And what that results in is, because these connectors are not overbuilt the way that power supply connectors were in days of yore, that results in a much higher amperage being drawn through the cables than they are rated for, and that turns them into resistors. And listener, if you know how electricity works, resistors generate a ton of heat, and if they're not rated to handle the amount of current that is flowing through them, they melt. That's how that works. So the wires are melting, the connectors are melting because NVIDIA designed these cards to within an inch of the actual limits of this standard. And you know why you're not seeing this on any of AMD's graphics cards that can draw, up to 500 watts of power and stuff like that? It's because they're still using 8-pin power connectors. Because the 8-pin power connectors split things across different lanes such that that if one of those is not connected, the graphics card just doesn't turn on. Instead of trying to suck all the juice through the wires that are connected and melting them. So yeah, 5090 also melts power connectors. And actually, that's been going on for a couple of weeks now. This past week, the new update to that is that a dude with a 5080 also had one of his power connectors melt. So it's not just the 5090, the 5080 can also cook your power cables. And when this happens, it can, in fact, for one of the first dude who posted on Reddit about his 5090 melting his cable, it melted the port on the graphics card and on the power supply.
Oof.
So it cooked his
dang.
GPU and his 1000 watt power supply. And I'm just like, wow, I bet you're real happy you dumped over $2,000 on that graphics card, aren't you? Good work.
Wow.
So yeah, good times. Fun had by all.
Oh, Nvidia. All right, let's move on. Yeah, Asus launched one phone in the form of two phones.
Yep. Yes, they did. So, two phones that have been relatively popular in our opinions, not necessarily in sales, but in our mindset anyways. The Zenfone and the ROG Phone have been pretty high up there on our list of decent phones to buy, worth buying, I guess Asus, I don't know what they're thinking, but the Zenfone 12 Ultra was announced, and the ROG Phone 9 Pro was also announced. And they are basically the same phone.
Dang it.
Now, the Zenfone 12 Ultra you can't buy in the US. It's available in China and other places around the world, but not here yet. The ROG Phone 9, I believe you can buy, but I don't know if you'd really want to buy either of them for the price anymore, because both of them are at that $1,200 starting price, which is flagship price. I'll just go through the specs because, I'm going to read them once because they're the same. Because it's, yeah.
Yeah.
They have the Snapdragon 8 Elite chip. They have 6.78 inch display that is 2400 by 1080 at 185 hertz, at least on the ROG Phone 9 Pro, which that's, really high for a phone, especially. They both have 16 gigs of RAM. Now, the ROG Phone has an option for 24 gigs of RAM, which is ridiculous on a phone. They have 512 gigs of storage, or a terabyte on the ROG Phone. They both have a 5,800 milliamp hour battery, 65 watt wired charging, and they have regular Qi wireless charging, not Qi 2, because that's not a thing apparently on Android. Cameras, they have a 50 megapixel, a 30 megapixel telephoto, and a 13 megapixel ultra wide. They're both IP68 rated for water and dust resistance. And yeah, $1,200 starting point for both of these phones. Now, the ROG Phone 9 Pro does have the benefit of having that cool little display on the back that does play a few little games here and there. So I guess if that's worth the $1,200 for you, then go for it.
Oh man, honestly, listener, if that's worth the $1,200, I've got a picture of a 5090 I want to sell to you.
A picture, yes. So, the specs aren't horrible. They're just, I do not think they're $1,200 worth of specs, in my opinion, in 2025.
Remember when you could buy a small, easily one-handable flagship phone for about $800?
From Asus? Yeah.
From Asus. I feel like Asus should remember this was 2 years ago.
Yes,
not
the
that
Zenfone
long.
The Zenfone 10 was a great phone. Oh,
so sad. So sad.
And now they've just done.
Oh, how the mighty have fallen.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. So, if you have an Asus phone, one of these phones, and you really like it, then stick with it. The other downside to this is they don't guarantee updates for more than even 2 years. Whereas like Google and Samsung and even OnePlus at this point is guaranteeing updates for at least 3 years. If with Samsung and Google, it's 7 years. So and for less money for some of the phones too. So I don't really understand these phones that much anymore. Asus is slowly becoming a phone company that I just can't recommend anymore, which is sad.
It is.
Yeah.
That's really sad.
Well, we'll go ahead and we'll move on. The next segment here, Netflix bites.
Now, listener, this is not saying something bad about Netflix, the service, which, I mean, you could say Netflix bites. There are definite reasons to say that. But no, this is actually worse. Netflix has opened a restaurant in Las Vegas called Netflix Bites.
What?
What?
Now, I want to say we've talked about this before. I think I remember them announcing this. I can't remember exactly if we talked about it on the podcast or not, but I do remember hearing about this. Yes, it is at the MGM Grand Hotel, and they have different immersive experience with themed dishes and food challenges of some sort. So if you are just absolutely in love with Netflix shows, I would assume like, I don't even know what shows they would theme them off of. Like, Stranger Things is probably one. What was that?
Squid Games.
Squid Games. That's the other one I was thinking of. There's probably, I mean, you might have, if you don't eat your burger correctly, it shoots you in the head. I don't know. I don't know exactly how immersive these experiences are. Maybe not quite that much, but yeah. So the restaurant, like I said, is open now for walk-ins, and they will take reservations starting February 20th if you want to reserve a table at this restaurant if you're in Vegas. So there you go. Netflix Bites, a restaurant in Vegas.
That was not where I thought that segment was going.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of their food here.
Because I saw the price hike that they sent me, and I thought that's what you were going to talk about. Nope, this was... Wow, I totally took a left here.
What is...
Listener, this is us looking at this right now, and you're getting our live reactions.
My gosh. No, I'm on the MGM Grand website. I'm looking at pictures of presumably stuff that they serve at this restaurant. And, I mean, first of all, that appears to be like for the upside down, like this is clearly a Stranger Things themed meal that is like a chicken sandwich with waffles as buns and waffle fries. And they have an upside down version of the meal, and the waffles look like they're chocolate waffles, and the chicken looks like it is now like super spicy red hot, like covered in Frank's Red Hot or something like that. And I'm like, okay, chicken and waffles I can get behind. I really like chicken and waffles, so the normal one sounds fine. But you swap that for like Frank's Red Hot coated chicken with chocolate waffles, I am very much not on board anymore. You have lost me. This is and they have a One Piece themed meal here that's just some sushi in a boat.
I'm seeing one that's Wednesday themed, and it's got Thing sitting on the table like a little hand with black. It's like nachos with black tortilla chips.
And that's
oh my gosh.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
I am wow.
That's
Listener,
interesting.
You could make food themed after your favorite Netflix show better and cost less than what is available in this restaurant. I am confident you don't have to go to Vegas.
I can guarantee
just throw
it.
a party.
Yeah.
Just look at it. Yeah, it's a good idea for
all you really have to do is go onto Google and search for whatever show you want themed food. I guarantee you will find at least 10 different websites that have different recipes for food based off these shows.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's dozens of Pinterest boards out there right now that have a whole bunch of ideas on them. And then just invite your friends over. You can watch the show together, eat the food. It'll taste better. It'll cost less. You'll have a better time. You'll like it just
and you don't have to go to Vegas. Win-win.
Yes. It is a win-win, really. Vegas is...
That is crazy.
Wow. Wild. That's wild. Holy
yes,
cow.
it is. Oh, well, all right. Let's be done with that. Let's move on. Well, I wasn't really going to mention this, but before we started recording, we decided that yes, this is worth mentioning.
Now, listener,
So-
before he
The
goes
best
on,
news of all week.
we have to say we contemplated moving this up to the event status of the podcast. Like
It's important.
it's definitely that important. You needed
It's
to know
really
about
this important. Now, listener, you know that Microsoft spent $69 billion to buy a couple companies, main one, Activision, but also Blizzard and King. King is the big one for mobile. They're a mobile developer. And, well, they released a new game under Microsoft's ownership, which just, can I say, is just an interesting merging of King and Microsoft.
But also the most predictable merging of King and Microsoft.
Absolutely.
It's interesting. It's very strange. But if you think about it, it's like, yeah, that's obviously where this was going.
Yes. So, yes, listener, Candy Crush Solitaire is the newest release from King under Microsoft's new ownership. Now, if you ask me, did you download this, Wes? Yes, I did. Did you try and play it? Yes, I did. Did you immediately after you figured out what it was uninstall it? Yes, I did. So, listener, it is quite interesting. It is not Solitaire, and it is not Candy Crush. It is a different type of card game. It reminds me of, listener, if you ever played, I think the game was called Tri-Peaks or Pyramids or something like that with cards. It's very similar to that. But then you have the flashiness of candy behind you. So when you beat a level, all of a sudden, this has a nice picture of a lake. All of a sudden, a lollipop shoots up out of the sand. And then you do another level, and then all of a sudden, candy comes out. And you get to have this whole picture of candy and stuff. So I didn't get to the point where it's going to charge me. So, listener, I didn't get to that point. But if you want to check this out, it is now available on iOS and Android. So have fun with that, I guess. That's the thing. You guys have any comments? I mean,
This is the most predictable thing that I think has ever happened in the world of tech. And I'm sad about that, but also kind of like strangely euphoric. And I don't really know how to reconcile that. It's weird.
Now, did they add this to Games Pass?
Now, it hasn't said. Now, it says there is no PC version yet, but it's only iOS, Android. But
It's only a matter of
you
time.
can download it from the Amazon App Store and the Samsung Galaxy Store in addition to Google Play.
Good. Yes.
So
that was the important priority.
that was,
I mean,
100%.
this is going to be the premier game on Windows 12. You know it is.
yeah. Yep.
Pre-installed.
And you can no
ready to
longer
go.
call it, you can no longer call it, malware. It's just- so, because it's a part of Windows now, right?
Yeah.
Your Candy Crush and your.
Oh man. So I mean the next obvious place to go is Candy Crush Minesweeper. I feel like that's the,
Yes.
that's the obvious follow-up where you're trying to find the mines and mark them and get 3 in a row. And
Yep.
then they
And then candy comes out of it.
explode, but with candy this time instead of ending the game. I don't know.
I mean, you never know.
I mean,
Are we going to be
here's the thing.
surprised though? That's the thing. Are we going to be surprised if it happens?
Yeah, that's
No.
I'm joking, but I'm also kind of not. So
Oh, yep. So there's that, listener. If you want to check that out, boy, let's move on to this one of our most favorite segments here on this podcast, just because these people are very special. We have
Yes.
some doom news.
Listener, it is time for the best news you're going to hear this week. Okay? I'm just straight up, because let's be honest, the world as a whole, not necessarily a super fun place right now. the United States in particular. A lot of weird things going on. And I don't think it's really a stretch to say that whatever your stance is on politics as a whole, I think the fact that government data is being fed into generative AI models as training data is concerning and shouldn't be happening. And yet in the midst of all of this turmoil and the AI slop that afflicts the tech space and graphics card prices that are frankly out of control to go alongside launches that are almost entirely fake, Doom modders are still here for us.
Yes.
A couple of weeks ago, a Doom modder took to Reddit and YouTube, post a video of Doom running on an Apple-made Lightning HDMI dongle. So
I gotta look this up.
This is a very interesting thing here, listener, because you're thinking to yourself, wait a second, it's running on the dongle, as in the dongle is like playing a video feed via HDMI and it's actually just running on a Lightning device, because that's really dumb. And Spendlove, you're psycho. That's not interesting at all. No, because Lightning ports, one of the many reasons why they needed to be replaced with USB-C, doesn't actually have the bandwidth to pass an HDMI signal across uncompressed. So in order for Lightning to HDMI to work, you had to compress the signal on the phone and then pass it over the Lightning connection. And then at the other end of that connection, on the dongle itself, the dongle had to decompress the video stream before passing it out over the HDMI port. Okay? So these Lightning HDMI dongles have a little tiny SoC in them. That is just a little tiny processor in there that just decompresses HDMI signals and outputs them. That's all it was designed to do. That's all it does. And this dude so there's no storage on there or anything like that. So if you go and look up the video, listener, you will see that he has this dongle plugged into a Mac and plugged into a MacBook, and you see some code like doing stuff in the command prompt right before Doom pops up on the screen that is shown. And this is because there's no storage, there's no RAM, there's nothing like that. So he has to use the storage of the RAM on the computer in order to actually store game data. But the game data is being sent over the Lightning connection and is being processed by the SoC on the dongle and then output to the monitor. So the game is being powered by a Lightning HDMI dongle.
It is. And I'm watching this video, and listener, do yourself a favor. Look at this video as Caleb is explaining this, because oh my goodness. Like,
it is.
Yes. So you know what's going on in this video.
Yeah. It's the dumbest thing and simultaneously the greatest thing that I think we have run Doom on yet. And I mean, that's saying a lot. I feel like from here, where do we even go? I don't know. You have to use potatoes to power the Lightning dongle to output the game onto a pregnancy test, I think is the next iteration of this. And then you use touch sensitive, like touch capacitive sensitive Lego bricks to control it, and do all of it while you're riding on the back of a robotic lawnmower. I don't know. It's just like, where does it end? I'm not sure it does, and I'm so happy about that.
Oh my gosh. Top comment. Beating Doom on an Apple dongle before Walmart staff kicks me out. Next is, we should call this the Doomgle. I wish I had a time machine to show people Doom running on a video cable.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, back when Doom was new, can you imagine showing up and be like, hey, you see this little stupid cable? It plays Doom.
Yeah. It runs Doom. Oh man, it's true. Doom modders, you guys are just amazing. Like,
yep.
Such good stuff.
So good.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of the episode. Unless, Landon, you got one more thing for us?
Yahoo!
Why? Why? Oh my gosh.
Why what? What?
Nothing.
So good.
Are you talking about the space or the sound? Because the sound's great. Nobody can complain about that sound.
No one can complain about that. Jeez. Anywho, what's your one more thing?
Yes, I do, in fact, have one more thing. And it also requires another sound. Now, this only gets one Doom gunshot because it's technically not a Doom mod, but it is Doom Doom news because, listener, if you haven't heard of the person Michel Ramon, he is a Android developer who also writes for different publications, and he's on multiple podcasts. He does a lot of different things. He's a great person when it comes to looking into Android betas and different things like that. Like, he gets these betas and tears them down and gives he's basically the one where we get all the details about what's coming up in the next version of Android, even before Google releases things. It's quite entertaining and great. But he found inside of Android 16's Linux terminal, it now it can run graphical Linux apps, and the first thing that he did with that, he played Doom.
Oh, good.
So I just thought that was great. Now, this is not technically live. Well, at the time that he wrote it, it was on Android, the first Android beta, and it wasn't technically live on that Android beta. He has ways of getting into these things that it's magic to me. But yeah, he was able to play Doom inside of Android 16's Linux terminal, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, I would be willing to bet you probably could have done that before, just a non-graphical version of Doom, because those are also available.
Yes. The Linux terminal has been able to run graphical content for a little while now.
Right.
But now it's been ported into Android now, which means you can do it from your phone,
Yes.
which is fun.
Yeah, so listener, if you have an old Android phone, do not do this on your current one, because that's a bad idea. But you can, potentially you can download the Android 16 beta of some sort. You might want to look into exactly what he's doing, but find the Linux terminal inside of that, and you can play Doom via an old Android phone, which is fun.
And honestly, do the comparison, see if it runs better in the Linux terminal or on a Lightning HDMI dongle. I would be interested to see which one has better frame
Right.
rates.
Yes, and also I'm interested to know the person that has an old Android phone and a Lightning to HDMI cable.
That would be interesting. I always like looking at videos of old Doom ports and how they ran on certain things. I know I'm a weirdo, but I think it's cool. Oh, man. Well, that was a pretty good one more thing, Landon. I like it. Surprised both of us for more Doom news,
Yeah.
kind of. So that was good. Well, listener, that is the end of our episode. We appreciate you listening. If you want to get a hold of us, you can, or want us to talk about something, or have any questions, or want to make fun of Caleb for his ranting and for not uploading videos, you can
Yes.
over at
Yeah.
callingonplatforms.com. You can also check us out on our social media platforms, as well as leave a comment at our YouTube channel for not having new videos to Caleb, at Calling On Platforms.
Yep.
All right, listener, have a good week.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Calling All Platforms is a production of Supporter Sound Studios. To learn more about how you can support the podcast, go to www.patreon.com/callingallplatforms.